Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shruti Devi. I'm doing a fellowship in gynecological oncology in Narayana Hill City, Bangalore. March 8th is International Women's Day, and on this day, as doctors, we would like to create awareness and to provide some information so that women can stay healthy. And about the women's health issues, cancer is one of the major causes of death, and it's so painful to see the statistics, the number of women who die out of cancer. And it's more important to know that most of the people who die out of cancer are not even aware of the symptoms which would have brought them early to the doctors. And it is on this day we would like to discuss issues with Dr. Rohit Ranade, sir is a consultant gynecological oncologist in Narayana Health City, Bangalore.
Hello everyone.
So we'll ask sir about the cancers, different types of cancers which affect women.
Okay, so first of all, you need to look at cancer. So there are cancers which are it can be divided into two ways. One is cancers which are exclusive only to women, and the second is the cancers which are general cancers. So today we'll be discussing more about coming to the women only cancers or women specific cancers. So they are mainly gynecological cancers, which are mainly cancers affecting the reproductive system of women, and breast cancer. So these are some important cancers which occur in women, and rest are other cancers like from the like brain tumors or gastrointestinal cancers or say urological cancers. These are common both to men. Oral cancers, these are both common to men and women.
So let us discuss one by one. So let us take about cervical cancer. So in abroad, in the West, there are so many cervical cancer programs which has brought down the mortality of women because of cervical cancer. And how big is the issue in India?
Yes.
So now before that, I would like to just stress upon why are these women cancers more important. Now if you look at the subgroup, about 40% of cancers occurring in women are either gynecological cancers or breast cancers. While in men, if you look at it, it's mainly oral cavity cancer which is more common, and lung cancer. But in women, it is either breast cancer or gynecological cancers, that is the cancer of the cervical cancer or the endometrial cancer, that is the uterus cancer, or ovarian cancer is more common. Now coming to your question regarding cervical cancer. Now we all need to know what is exactly cervix. Now cervix is the mouth of the uterus, which is also known as the baby bag. So that's the bag which will take care of the baby during pregnancy. So cervix is the mouth of the uterus. So this is a cancer which is very, very common. Now if you look at an incidence, it is the second most common cancer in India, and we nearly had about 1 lakh new cases per year, and it's the commonest cancer in rural India. So though the cancer is less common in Western world, but in India and South Asian countries and African countries, the incidence is quite high.
In spite of the efforts taken by the government?
Yes. Yes, so that's what I mean. The numbers are still high, and predominantly what is important is many of the cases come to us in advanced stages. Like 70% of cases come to us in advanced stages, and more than that, there is a death because of cervical cancer in India every 8 minutes, which is very, very unfortunate.
Most of them, it's because they are not knowing what should have brought them to the hospital. What
Yes.
symptoms should have brought them to the hospital.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at it, it is one of the cancers where WHO has said that it is an ideal cancer for screening, or women need to be aware like what are the symptoms of cervical cancer. Now, if you look at the symptoms of cervical cancer, they are any excessive discharge per vaginal. If you are having any vaginal discharge which is abnormal, foul smelling, please go and see your doctor. If you have had any episode of bleeding which is away from your or without your normal cycles, that can be one's first symptom of cervical cancer. Also, bleeding after sexual intercourse or sexual activity is also an important symptom of cervical cancer. Obviously, in advanced stages, other symptoms like weight loss and pain in abdomen are the other symptoms which are common.
So when the patient gets symptoms, it is almost like the cancer has developed. Is there anything we can do to pick up cases before the cancer?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think cervical cancer, as I told you, it is one of the model diseases concerned for in WHO, as per WHO, for screening. Now, why this is, we need to know why this is known as the model disease. Now, the cervical cancer is preceded by something called as a pre-invasive phase. Now, pre-invasive phase is something before cancer. So, it nearly is there for about 5 to 10 years before the actual cancer occurs. That means you can detect a disease about 5 to 7 years before the cancer occurs. And there are various, you can say, tests which are available in the market. They are available with your local gynecologist or a preventive oncologist as well. Some tests like pap smear or a human papillomavirus DNA or a visual inspection with acetic acid. Now, in addition to that, there are some tools known as colposcopy, which is available only in specialized colposcopy clinics. So, this is used for detection, for further evaluation of a lady if there is some abnormality on the pap smear.
So, how often do you advise women to go and get them tested?
Yeah, it's absolutely important that every lady who is sexually active or who is after the age of 21 should do a pap smear once in 3 years.
So, what about the role of vaccines? What time should the kids get vaccinated?
Yes. So, this is one, you can say one issue, one issue which is now sort of, we are seeing there is a lot of awareness regarding the vaccine. Now, we need to know that the cervical cancer, about 90% of cervical cancers are caused by a virus known as human papillomavirus. Commonest strains are 16 and 18. There are also other 13 high-risk strains. Now, we have a vaccine which acts against the virus. There are about 2 vaccines which are available in the market. Usually, both vaccines you need to take 3 doses. The recommended guideline is to take it between 9 to 13 years. Important is one should take it before somebody is sexually active. Now, what is the reason why the effect of the vaccine is less after somebody already has an HPV infection? It's most important to know that the vaccine just prevents the infection. It will not cure an infection. So, if a lady has already had infection with HPV, the vaccine will not act. It will just prevent an infection. Though I have said that cervical cancer is caused by HPV, not every lady who has an HPV infection gets a cervical cancer. It is only 0.1% of, if you have 100 women who are infected with HPV vaccine, only 0.1% of them are going to go and have cervical cancer. Rest, or the body is going to eliminate the virus. So, it's important that just because somebody has an HPV infection, it doesn't mean that she will have cancer. Yes, absolutely. They should not ignore, and they should consult their doctor. Yeah, so if you look at time trends in oncology or in cancer statistics, in India, previously cervical cancer was the #1 cancer. Breast cancer was only common in urban areas. Now, what we are saying is the incidence of cervix is sort of plateauing, or it is maybe reducing a little bit, but breast cancer is increasing dramatically. If you ask me, it is the #1 cancer in women in worldwide as well as in India. In urban India, it is #1 cancer, and overall also in India now, breast cancer has overtaken cervical cancer. We nearly saw about 1.7 to 1.8 lakh new cases of breast cancer every year in India.
So, what about the screening? What should people know about?
Yes. So So now I'll talk to you about there are some good things about breast cancer. One is breast cancer is a surface disease. So if somebody is a little intelligent and educated and is aware of what are the symptoms, you can detect breast cancer early. So as far as screening is concerned, one should do a mammography, say once in 3 years or once in 5 years. But most important is a breast self-examination. You need to stand in front of the mirror and examine the breast. Now, what do you need to look when you are doing a breast self-examination? Look for any mass which you are seeing. Look for any discharge from the nipple. Look for any bleeding from the nipple, and palpate and see if you can feel a lump in the breast or if that is there, you should please consult your doctor as early as possible. Also, there is something called as a clinical breast examination. Now, this is done by a trained person, where the examination of the breast is done by a clinician, and that is recommended to be also to be one of the modalities where you can pick up breast cancers early, and reduce the incidence of.
So if a woman has a first degree with breast cancer or ovarian cancer, what would you advise?
Yes, so this is something which is which we are seeing of late. Now, if you look at the section of the society, there is something called as some cancers are genetically inherited. That is, they pass from generations, from the mother to the daughter, or from the father to the daughter, or father to the son. Now, there is a certain subgroup of patients who have had breast cancers as well as ovarian cancers. They are known as hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. If in general, out of total ovarian cancers, about 18 to 20% of ovarian cancers are hereditary. Now, it is basically a subgroup of patients who are susceptible to breast cancers as well as ovarian cancer. The lifetime risk of getting breast cancer is about 80%. The lifetime risk of getting ovarian cancer is about 40%, and it is primarily because of mutation in two genes known as the BRCA1 and 2.
So, and let us discuss something about ovarian cancer also. We have discussed already saying that ovarian cancer is one of those cancers in which early detection really plays a role. So, for that, we should know what the symptoms are. But unfortunately, we know that the symptoms of ovarian cancer is very vague. So, what do you like to tell them? When should they actually see the doctor?
Yeah, so ovarian cancer is still, there are a lot of things which are unanswered about ovarian cancer. Primarily because it doesn't have a clear symptomatic pattern. Most of the times, the patient has non-specific symptoms like vague pain in the abdomen, or vague symptoms of GI upset or bloating. It's only in the advanced stages that specific symptoms like weight loss and all will show. Only primarily if the ovarian tumors are large, then you can have symptoms like you may need to go to the to pass urine more frequently, or you might feel that you are not able to pass urine completely, or even motions completely. These are commonest symptoms which are there for ovarian cancer. Now, unfortunately, these symptoms are often missed, and that's why majority of the cases which come to us in ovarian cancer are again in the advanced group. Ovarian cancer is one disease which has shown an increased incidence both in India as well as in the Western world. In India, it is now the third most common cancer in women.
So it's also said that bloating is a very vague symptom, but they say if they have such symptoms more than 12 times in a month, then they should at least.
Yes, absolutely. You need to go and consult your doctor. Now, one thing which I wanted to tell is, though there are no clear-cut screening guidelines, in my opinion, people who are affording should at least get an ultrasound scan once a year.
Is there a blood test which can actually help them?
Oh, yeah. So, there is a blood test called CA125, which is usually elevated in ovarian cancers. But there are also other reasons why which CA125 is elevated. So, it is not very sensitive. So, just because CA125 is elevated doesn't mean that it is always cancer.
So, basically, there is no screening test as such.
Yes.
Possible if the patients are aware of the symptoms.
Yes, absolutely.
So, let us discuss something about endometrial cancer, the uterine cancer. So, there is a subset of population which is at a high risk for getting endometrial cancer.
Yes.
So, again, endometrial cancer is one cancer which was very common is still the number one common cancer in Western world. But now with increasing urbanization and other factors, we are seeing an increased incidence in India as well. Now, there are some risk factors which are there for endometrial cancer. Commonest is a state of hyperestrogenism. If there is something because of which the estrogen is more in the body, you are at high risk for endometrial cancer. Obesity is also one risk factor for endometrial cancer. Also, other diseases like metabolic diseases like diabetes, or somebody who is hypertensive or has hypertension is also at the risk of endometrial cancer. Primarily, as compared to cervical cancer, most of the times endometrial cancer is diagnosed early. There is one cardinal symptom of endometrial cancer is bleeding after menopause is the most important symptom for endometrial cancer, and one should not ignore if somebody has a symptom like this. Fortunately, majority of these cancers come to us in early stage. It is one of the best cancers to treat if diagnosed in early stage.
So, is there any role of family history in endometrial cancer?
Yes. So, as there is this syndrome called as hereditary breast ovarian cancer, there is something called as Lynch syndrome. So, where the members of the subgroup, they are susceptible to endometrial cancers, that is cancers of the uterus. They are also susceptible to gastrointestinal cancers. So, they are known as, that is because of a defect in the gene called as the MSI genes. So they are also, you will see women having endometrial cancers at a young age, like 35, 40. In them also genetic testing is recommended.
So somebody with family history of colon cancer, intestinal cancers, or with family history of endometrial cancers, and people with bleeding disorders, postmenopausal bleeding, or history of hyperestrogenism, they should attend a doctor.
Yes, absolutely.
So there are some other cancers which are less common but can actually affect women in a very bad way. So can you please list some of those?
Yeah, so out of that, there's one cancer known as choriocarcinoma, or we known as gestational trophoblastic diseases. Now these are cancers which occur in primarily younger population. These are all women in their reproductive age group, young female, 20 years, 30 years. So now the good thing about this cancer is that it is a very curable form. The cure rates are very high. It is as high as 95% or more than that. So that is something which one should know, and women should seek help. Another important cancers which I would like to stress is the germ cell tumors occurring in young women in germ cell tumors of ovary. They primarily occur in young women. Again, very high rates of cure, needs a comprehensive management. Another less common cancer is a vulval cancer, so which is the cancer of the external genitalia. Usually occurs in elder women above 60, between 60 and 80, and again the cure rates in early stages are quite good.
So what are the symptoms of vulval cancer?
Yes, so vulval cancer is, again, as I told you, it's a surface disease. So anybody who sees a lump in the external genitalia, or which is showing discharge, or which is showing bleeding, are the most common symptoms of vulval cancer.
So anything else you want to tell about?
Yes, it's important. See, now women are the most important part of a family. We are seeing that women are developing in other fields. They are as good as men in their work. They are far better than men also in certain situations. It's just that they need to take care of their health. Most of the cancers, I'm not saying all, most of the women cancers which are specific in women are treatable, and they can be diagnosed early. It's important that women are aware of their symptoms and they seek medical help when possible. Please do screening for cervical cancer and for breast cancer regularly, and please be aware of the symptoms of ovarian and uterine cancer.